If you find yourself apologizing for pretty much everything under the sun, you're not alone. Maybe you even apologize again after you've already apologized the first time, simply because your brain keeps replaying the moment and you can't seem to let it go. Over apologizing can look and feel like you're being considerate and courteous and conscientious, but it often comes from a very different place. If you keep apologizing after you've already taken responsibility, or you apologize in situations where you really haven't done anything wrong, the extra apologies usually aren't for the other person involved. They're usually for you. Your security guard, which is what I call part of your brain and your nervous system, and I can link a video that explains more about the security guard. She's afraid when you feel the urge to over apologize that your social safety is slipping, and she is desperate to fix it. And that's why your brain reaches for, I'm so sorry, because it feels like the fastest way to soothe that fear. Hey there, my name is Amy Shield, and I help smart, capable women feel as confident on the inside as they look on the outside. And today, we are going to talk all about over apologizing. We'll talk about why over apologizing is often a fear based pattern. We'll talk about what you're trying to protect yourself from, where that fear is coming from, and how to respond in a way that builds self confidence and self trust without over apologizing or over explaining. Let's start by talking about what over apologizing actually is. Over apologizing is not apologizing once when you've genuinely made a mistake. Over apologizing is repeated apology as a way to manage your own discomfort and fear about how you're being perceived by other people. It's apologizing again because your brain and your body are still reacting to the situation, even after the other person has maybe already moved on mentally and emotionally. So, accountability might look like this: taking responsibility, repairing the situation or the relationship if needed, committing to adjust your behavior, and then moving forward. That's accountability. Fear based apologizing, over apologizing, on the other hand, looks like this: apologizing once and then apologizing again because you feel the urge to do so, or over explaining to prevent someone else from judging you or misunderstanding you, or bringing the situation up again later because your brain doesn't feel settled when it comes to that issue, or trying to get reassurance from the other person that you're still okay in their eyes. That whole, hey, we're good, right? That whole vibe. Accountability is about addressing the situation. Fear based apologizing is often about social safety or the perceived lack thereof on the part of your security guard. Let's talk about why we tend to over apologize. Over apologizing usually is not about manners. Most of the time, it's about protection. You're trying to protect yourself due to the fear of feeling judged or feeling rejected, feeling misunderstood, or being seen as inconsiderate or like you're too much, or feeling like you are the problem in a situation. Even if you wouldn't say those fears out loud, your nervous system can still be reacting to them. They're often subconscious thoughts and fears that you might not even realize are happening for you. The whole over apologizing cycle is a great place to apply Brooke Castillo's model because it can really help you see what's actually driving the over apologizing behavior. So we start out with a circumstance. Someone else is responding to your behavior. That might trigger a thought for you. It might be something like, oh, they think I'm rude, or they think I'm inconsiderate, or whatever kind of judgment you are afraid that they might be passing on you. Okay, so there's your thought. Now, that thought generates a feeling. It might be something like fear or shame or embarrassment or disappointment in yourself. That feeling fuels your actions and inactions. That can look like apologizing again or explaining even more or revisiting the incident later. The result that that creates for you is that temporarily you probably feel some relief because you've over apologized or over explained, but that's often followed by more self doubt, more rumination, less self trust, and a stronger habit of over apologizing. Now, that last part, that matters. Over apologizing, it might momentarily reduce your discomfort, but it usually creates results that keep you stuck. It reinforces the belief in the neural pathway in your brain that you can't feel socially exposed and still be okay unless you say the right thing the right number of times in the right way. Now, if you'd like a deeper explanation of how your security guard operates in moments like this, you can check out the video that I'll link here all about your security guard and the role that she plays. Let's talk about what over apologizing can cost you. So, again, when you're over apologizing, it can feel like you're being thoughtful and conscientious. Over time, though, it definitely has a cost. Number one, it costs you your self confidence and your self trust. When you apologize repeatedly, you're teaching yourself, you're teaching your brain that you can't tolerate the discomfort of a messy moment. And life is full of messy moments for every single human being. You're also reinforcing the idea that you have to fix yourself, minimize yourself, or earn your way back into feeling socially safe. You also train yourself to live in reaction mode. So instead of leading yourself through moments with self confidence, you become led by the urge to smooth things over. It can also cost ease and trust in the relationship in question. Over apologizing can unintentionally put the other person in a position where they feel like they're responsible to reassure you repeatedly because you keep apologizing. Even people who are really kind, genuine people can get tired of saying, it's fine, it's okay, over and over and over. And sometimes the other person can even get annoyed or confused by your repeated apologies. Sometimes they start thinking that the incident is a bigger deal than it really is because you keep bringing it back to the surface. Even if the relationship stays intact, you might find yourself thinking about the situation way more than you really need to, which can make it feel heavier than it needs to be. That takes up mental and emotional bandwidth and energy, and also your time. Let's talk about the role that your nervous system plays in over apologizing and why it can feel so urgent to do so. If you over apologize, there's a good chance that you have actually experienced the urgency of it in your body. For example, maybe you felt a tightness in your chest, or you felt your stomach drop, or you notice racing thoughts in your mind, or that your face gets all flushed and you start to feel hot. Or maybe you feel shaky. Perhaps you even feel a sudden, intense need to fix this situation now. That urgency is not proof that you've done something terrible or wrong. It's often a nervous system response to a perceived social threat, which is totally normal. Notice I say perceived social threat. So, the security guard part of your brain and your nervous system, she does her best to keep you safe in the best way that she can. However, she is not good at telling the difference between what does pose an actual legitimate threat to your immediate safety or life and something that might just be uncomfortable or a little bit of a bump in the road or a setback. Your security guard can interpret emotions like disapproval or awkwardness or possible rejection as unsafe, like incredibly dangerous. And when that happens, your brain looks for a really fast path to get back to safety. Over apologizing can feel like that fast path. Now, if you'd like support for getting back into what we call your window of tolerance, which is where you can make decisions about how you want to respond instead of responding out of that security guard based fight or flight mode, start with the video that I'll link here that's all about everyday nervous system regulation to help you create more calm and choice in your life. Let's talk about the shift that changes the over apologizing pattern. Over apologizing is often a way of trying to control the other person's perception of you so that you can feel socially safe. That's why it can feel so hard to stop because the security guard, she thinks that you are experiencing like a life and death threat. And if you stop apologizing, you may have to sit with the feelings that she's reacting to. Feelings like embarrassment or shame or regret or disappointment in yourself or the fear that someone might think differently of you. This is where the shift happens. You can't control whether someone else judges you. You can't control whether they understand or misunderstand what you are trying to say or do. You can't control whether other people are disappointed. You can control how you lead yourself. When you lead yourself with integrity and self respect, that's what builds self confidence and self trust. You don't build self confidence by making sure that no one ever has a negative thought about you, right? That is literally impossible. You build self confidence by knowing that you can move through uncomfortable moments without abandoning yourself. Here's a step by step process to help you stop over apologizing when you feel the urge to apologize again. Now, this process is not about never offering another apology. It's about what to do when you feel the urge to apologize again, especially after you've already apologized or already taken responsibility for your past behavior or something that you feel you did wrong. Step one, notice the urge to over apologize. You don't need to judge it. You just need to notice it. Remember, this is your security guard. This is a part of your biology reacting to something in the environment. So it's not something that we have to judge. And you can try saying something to yourself like, oh, okay, I'm noticing the urge to over apologize again. Or I feel the urge to explain more so that this person doesn't think something bad about me. The goal at this stage is simple awareness. If you can catch the urge, then you have so much more opportunity to work with it before you start to apologize again or over explain. Step number two, identify what you're thinking and feeling. This is where you stop treating the urge like a fact. In other words, I have to apologize again, and start treating the urge like information. Ask yourself questions like, what am I telling myself right now? What am I afraid this person is going to think about me? And what am I feeling right now? Now, this is important. Be specific. A lot of the time, it's not just anxiety, it's something like embarrassment or shame or disappointment in yourself or fear that you made a bad impression. When you can identify the thought and the feeling that are underneath the urge to over apologize, it's so much easier to shift in another direction. Step number three is to self regulate if you're outside of your window of tolerance. So, if your nervous system is activated, which means you're in fight, flight, or freeze mode, it's a lot harder to choose a self confident response, and that's for biological reasons. Your brain is going to want the fastest relief, and so the thinking part of our brain, the prefrontal cortex, kind of goes offline, and that security guard takes over. And that's why self regulation matters here. Now, you don't need some long, huge self regulation meditation routine. You just need enough grounding to shift from that feeling of urgency into a feeling that you have the ability to choose. Now, if self regulation is new to you, I'll link a video either here on the screen or in the description or both that introduces you to basic self regulation. Once you're better regulated, come back to the moment and ask these next questions from a calmer place. So, step four is to ask yourself some questions that can help you build self trust before you speak, before you act on the urge to apologize again. These questions are really designed to interrupt the over apologizing loop, not intensify it. So, try just one or two of these questions. Did I already take responsibility and apologize in this situation? And what will apologizing again add to this situation or this relationship? How can it be something that is helpful and enhances? And why am I feeling the urge to apologize again? Is it because I need to take responsibility for something else to get reassurance, or is there another reason? And this question is so important. If they still misunderstand me, or if they do think of me differently as a result of this situation, how can I lead myself through that, knowing that I can't control other people's perceptions? Now, like I said, that last question is important because it points back to what the real work is underneath. It's not controlling the other person or how they perceive you. The real work is leading yourself through whatever comes up. Step number five is to choose a self confident response that closes the loop on the situation. Now remember, this is for when you feel the urge to apologize again after you've already apologized once. Your goal here is not to say the perfect thing or get the person to be happy and content with you again. It's to stop feeding the loop. So, depending on the moment, a self confident response might be internal, something that you're saying to yourself, or it might be spoken out loud to the other person. Either can be effective, and it just kind of depends on what the situation calls for. Here are some options that can keep you out of over explaining in the moment. So, if you've already apologized, you might tell yourself internally something like, I've taken responsibility for this and I'm allowing myself to move forward from here. If you feel the urge to justify yourself or over explain, you might say something to yourself internally like, I'm going to let what I've already said be enough and move on. Now, if your brain wants to reopen the incident later and revisit it, you can tell yourself internally something like, I don't need to revisit this and apologize again in order to be a good person. Now, sometimes the situation will call for a brief, grounded acknowledgement without rehashing everything that happened. And if that's the case, you might say something to the other person like, Thank you so much for your patience, or I appreciate that you gave me the opportunity to offer my apologies or offer an explanation. Now, this is not a rule. It's simply one approach that can communicate care without causing you to spiral into repeated apologies. The key here is that you close the loop so that you can move forward instead of reopening and revisiting and over apologizing. Step number 6, and this is my absolute favorite, is to practice resilient discomfort and move forward. This stage right here, this is where you build self-confidence and self-trust. If you stop over apologizing, the chances are that you'll probably experience some emotional discomfort. You might feel embarrassment or regret or disappointment in yourself or shame, or you might feel awkward. Maybe you even feel sad. You might feel some fear around how you're being perceived. When you experience those kinds of feelings, it's not a sign that you need to apologize again. They're a sign that your security guard, that part of your brain and your nervous system, who is super concerned about your social safety, that she wants to pull you back into those safety-seeking behaviors. But the question is your safety actually at risk here? And the answer is almost always no. And this is where resilient discomfort matters. So in this case, resilient discomfort means that you're willing to feel discomfort without trying to eliminate it through over-apologizing. You recognize that not all discomfort is bad, and that this discomfort, what you're experiencing right now because you're stopping yourself from over-apologizing, that is serving your greater good over time. A self-confident inner response in the midst of resilient discomfort might sound something like this. This feels uncomfortable, and I can still be okay. I can't control that person's perception, but I can stay aligned with myself. Or, I already took responsibility, and I'm allowed to move forward even if I still have some discomfort around this. That is self-confidence in action. All right, let's look at some examples of what this whole process could look like in real life. Here's example 1. It's about setting a boundary without spiraling into over-apologizing. Let's say maybe a friend asks you to help with something this weekend and you are already at capacity and you know you can't do it and you need to say no. And you respond with, I'm so sorry, I can't. Now, that's a complete sentence. It's kind, it's honest, and it's enough. And then maybe your brain kicks in, your security guard blows her whistle and says, oh, now she's going to think I'm selfish. Maybe you feel guilty. Maybe because of that guilt, you feel the urge to keep explaining why you can't help. Maybe it makes you want to soften your response more until it becomes the yes that you didn't want to say. That is the over-apologizing impulse. Here's how those 6 steps can apply to this situation as you are moving through it in real time. Number 1, notice the urge. I feel the urge to apologize again and justify why I can't help out. Next, identify the thought and feeling. She's going to think I'm selfish, and that makes you feel guilty. Number 3, self-regulate if you need to. Take a breath, get yourself grounded, and slow your thoughts down. Number four, ask yourself these questions. Did I already apologize? Yes. What will apologizing again add to this situation or relationship? Well, it will definitely keep the conversation around the issue going and make me feel like I have to do something else to make the situation better in my mind. Number five, choose a loop closer. Maybe that's thinking to yourself, I'm going to let what I've already said be enough. And number six, practice resilient discomfort. If you feel guilty, allow that guilt to exist without trying to fix it through more words or actions. You're not being unkind here, you're being clear. You're letting your no be real and aligned with where you're at, even if it's uncomfortable to do so in the moment. That builds self confidence and self trust. Okay, example number two, making a mistake without feeling like you have to apologize for it for like the rest of your life. So maybe, for example, you were supposed to bring something to an event and you forgot it. You apologize in the moment, you take responsibility. You offer a correction if one is needed, and the other person accepts your apology, and the situation moves on. Then later, maybe you see the other person again and your brain brings that situation back up. Maybe you feel embarrassed or disappointed in yourself. Maybe you feel the urge to apologize again. At this point, apologizing again isn't accountability, it's self soothing. You can walk yourself through that 6-step process. Again, notice the urge. I feel the urge to apologize again for forgetting that thing. Identify the thought that's happening for you. They probably still think I'm unreliable. Maybe that's the thought. Now, how does that thought make you feel? Maybe you feel embarrassed or ashamed or disappointed in yourself. Next, self regulate if needed. And then ask yourself, why am I feeling that I want to apologize again? Is it to take responsibility, to get reassurance, or is it something else? In this scenario, it's often to get reassurance. Ask yourself, if they think of me differently, how can I lead myself through that, knowing that I can't control their perception, and frankly, I might not know what they're thinking about me. Next, choose your self-confident loop closer. You can say something to yourself like, I already took responsibility, I handled it, and I am allowed to move forward. The self-confident version of you takes responsibility once, repairs the relationship or the situation if needed, and then stops feeding the loop. That doesn't make you careless. It makes you calm, accountable, and self-confident. Here's example number 3. It's all about a conversation replay in your mind. So maybe you're in a conversation and you say something slightly off. We've all been there, myself included. And the other person makes a comment about what you said. You apologize in the moment and they accept your apology and move on. Later, you see that same person again. The moment flashes back in your brain and you feel the urge to apologize again. This is a great example of how over-apologizing can become a pattern. Your brain is trying to manage the other person's perception of you, and it wants to reopen the incident so you can try to guarantee that you're still okay in their eyes. Here's the reality check that most people need in this kind of situation. The other person is probably not thinking about that incident nearly as much as you are. In fact, they may have forgotten about it entirely. Your brain is holding on to that situation because it's trying to protect you, not because the situation is actually still socially relevant. So instead of reopening the incident, lead yourself. Again, notice the urge. I feel the urge to apologize again for that thing I said the other day, and I felt really embarrassed and horrible. Identify the thought and the feeling. They think I'm weird or they think I'm rude, whatever the thought might be. Maybe that thought makes you feel embarrassed. Now, self-regulate if needed to take yourself out of fight, flight, or freeze mode back into your window of tolerance, and then ask, what will apologizing again add to this situation or this relationship? Well, it will keep me stuck in the past and self-focused and really make the moment bigger than it needs to be in my mind. Next, choose a self-confident action that helps you move forward. In this particular scenario, a powerful move could be simply to focus on the other person and move into the present by asking, in a very sincere and interested way, how are you doing? That little shift matters because it moves you out of rumination and into connection with the other person. It also reinforces the truth that you can handle discomfort without reopening the over apologizing loop. Now, if you'd like to take this work deeper, here's a grounded next step. First, know that over apologizing is not who you are. It's a protection strategy from your brain and your nervous system. When you learn how to notice the urge, regulate your system, ask yourself the right questions, and move forward without reopening the loop, you build self confidence and self trust. You stop living as if you have to earn social safety through repeated apology. You start leading yourself through discomfort with inner strength. If you'd like some help with untangling your specific over-apologizing pattern and building self-confidence and self-trust that will serve you for the rest of your life, I'd love to invite you to book a free coaching consultation with me. We'll talk about where you're at right now, where you'd like to be, and how coaching could help you get there. My name is Amy Shield. I help smart, capable women feel as confident on the inside as they look on the outside. Thank you so much for checking out my video today. I hope you have an amazing day. Bye-bye.